Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. After reading Berserk, I wanted something more light, slice of life, so what better choice than to read Blame? Just kidding, this manga was much more challenging, honestly, than Berserk. Much darker in some regards. There's very little hope. Berserk, I think, goes into darker places. This doesn't go as dark as Berserk, but it doesn't have those light happy moments that Berserk has. So just a consistent dark vibe. But it was well worth my time. I really enjoyed it. So let's jump into it. So before we dive deep into like plot and stuff, I will give a brief spoiler-free synopsis, or I'll try my best, but we'll see how it goes. I'll also give some overall thoughts about the manga as a whole. So Blame is set in this kind of futuristic dystopian place called the city, and the city is filled with these like technological megastructures, and it's seemingly never ending. Our protagonist is Kelly, who's this mysterious person who's very stoic and quiet for the most part. His goal throughout the show is to find a human with the net terminal gene, and the net terminal gene allows humans to take control of the city, and it would basically allow humans to recover from like near extinction. And he is essentially ascending the city, going from like the bottom to the top levels, because it seems like in the upper part and edges of it, there might be a chance of a human with the net terminal gene. There are many factions and like antagonists along the way. There's no one singular bad guy, I guess. And these bad guys could be like artificial beings, other humans, and AIs that have all of them have their own goals and aspirations. You're not given much exposition throughout the manga, especially in the beginning. I think the first few chapters have barely any dialogue. So as a reader, it's like a puzzle where you kind of start to figure out more about each faction, the story of the world, and the main character as you go along. No character ever goes out of their way to explain things to Killy. They kind of just tell him what is needed as if we weren't there. Basically, they don't the author doesn't do anything out of plot convenience. The vibe is also very nihilistic. People are disposable to most, and they seem to move on pretty quickly. Like if some humans die, it's like, oh well, let's just move on. And the first thing that will catch your eye is the art, for sure. The art style is incredibly unique. It's very like sketchbook-esque with incredibly detailed backgrounds and structures, which makes sense given the author's background in architecture and construction. And the characters and entities feel very much like the Matrix movies combined with old creepy YouTube animations like Salad Fingers. I felt like a combination of this futuristic dystopian Matrix world with Salad Finger drawings, but way more detailed, obviously. So I, as a whole, would recommend this manga to people who like a challenge, who don't mind not knowing everything, and who love body horror works from people like Junji Ito if you're into manga, or if you're into movies, David Cronenberg. So I personally really liked it, and even read the prequel to it, Noise, which gives some context of how the city came about. However, I don't think personally it's a work that will stick with me long term, like something like Berserk or Blood on the Tracks, just because my preference is more character oriented work, something where I can relate to the flaws as well as the good from the characters. So now let's go over spoilers of like the major factions, plot points in the story, and some questions I have regarding like everything. First of all, the city seems to come about because humans back in the day had the net terminal gene, as I said, and could use it to control what they call the net sphere. And the net sphere, I guess, is kind of like this system that allows them to control what they call the builders, who, as the name suggests, build everything in the city. But it seems at some point an infection caused people to start losing their net terminal gene. And fast forward to now, the present, in Blame, there basically is no human left, as far as we know, that has the net terminal gene. And that's what Killy's looking for. Due to this, the builders keep building endlessly without any regard, making the city expand and expand just endlessly. They will also build in ways that trap humans in megastructures, and they end up having their own mini societies because they're just trapped all together in this like not like high like small space, but more so like a huge space that has no way to leave it into the other megastructures in the city. This detail makes the world feel more lived in my opinion, because we encounter many times during Killy's journey these different kind of subcultures of humans that are left alive in the city. Like we see a group called Electrofishers that have their own unique gear, and their people look distinctly different than the other humans we've encountered. And there's also the Bioelectric Corporation that we learn about early on and Killy goes to, and it has its humans essentially enslaved into work to try to create an artificial terminal net gene to interface with the net sphere. But aside from humans, we also have the administration, and they're trying to stop this endless growth of the city. But they need net terminal humans to be able to do this. They cannot do it on their own. So they end up aiding Killy throughout his whole journey. Now, I'm unsure personally if the administration created Killy for this purpose, or if he, I think, is kind of implied to be a safeguard that was reprogrammed maybe by the administration to fulfill this end goal. But they never directly, as far as I remember, give him any orders. They just kind of aid him and give him some guidance. There's also two other factions at play here, the Silicon Life and the Safeguards. And the Safeguards are a program created by the administration to protect the city and humans, at least initially, like thousands or millions of years ago. But now with so much time passing and no terminal gene humans anymore, its sole purpose has kind of become to eliminate all living beings, including humans as well as Silicon Life. Since in their, I guess, programming, they are not deemed humans because they don't have the terminal gene. However, we do meet safeguards along the way that actually protect humans, such as Domochevsky. But in his case, he's in a provisional megastructure in the city that never got, I guess, corrupted by the programming changes that happened with the safeguards. And I like this detail and like the character of Domochevsky because it shows us this potential original side of the safeguards when they were, I guess, good. And then the final and most chaotic, in my opinion, faction are the Silicon Life. In Noise, the prequel, we learned that the Silicon Life started out as a cult in human times, and they wanted to ascend to the next step of humanity. And they essentially did horrible experimentation to get there. But in the present of Blame, they're not in a really organized group like the Safeguard or the administration slash governing agency. They tend to hang around though in like small groups of themselves, but they still have a unified goal of preventing the administration and humanity from gaining back control of the city, since that would mean they could be exterminated. There is a clear exception in the manga, which is Davin Luling Vega. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing that name right, but they want to actually access the net sphere rather than just destroy humans. They want to basically kidnap a human and use it to access the net sphere just out of sheer curiosity, we find out. And I do appreciate having all of these factions with all these complex relationships and goals because, as I said earlier, it makes the world feel more real. With how lived in this world feels and the fact there is not much exposition, it just makes us more like silent observers of Killy's journey, as if we are like part of the agency or administration just silently cheering along our hero. I tend to tackle mangas like this much differently than others. In other mangas, most of my time is spent kind of analyzing the themes, symbols, and messaging behind the story and the characters. However, with Blame, most of my brain power went to actually analyzing the story itself, making sense of it, its events and factions, and how the world came to be. Now, is everything explained in a thorough and cohesive way? Nope. For example, a lot of the stuff in the first few chapters with the lady without arms and her dog, I guess, giving Killy a mission, as well as a child we meet that the Silicon Life keep trying to kind of like exterminate, but he keeps coming back and killing them. That stuff is not really explained. It's like, who is this child? Is he a safeguard? You know, what is he really? Or this girl with no arms and the dog, like, are they part of the agency or the administration and give Killy his next assignment? There's many more examples I could bring up, but those are the two first that stood out in my mind. But once you're like in the flow of reading the manga and kind of get used to this stuff, the atmosphere completely captures you. You'll end up stuck looking at a single panel for way too long, just admiring the amount of detail in each structure. Like, I feel like if you're using like an iPad or any tablet, you could zoom in and see so much detail in every single small part of those mega structures. So in my opinion, Blame was well worth my time. It's a unique experience that no other work I've ever read has captured. This kind of desolate dystopian vibe with not much exposition, kind of mostly silent protagonist, not a lot of characters along with him. Things kind of just happen and we move along and keep going in our journey to try to find a net terminal gene. But yeah, I love to hear your thoughts on Blame. Please let me know what I got wrong in like my overview and details that I like missed or that I could find interesting in the story. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.